Well, hello there. How is everyone? I hope you're all well on this marvelous Monkey Monday. Monkey Monday, baby. Monkey Monday. You're looking absolutely amazing, I must add. So we get on with it because it's Monday and everybody's probably feeling a little bit this again. Anyway, we're talking about there's all of these documents have been released, right? And I've kind of held off. There's some fantastic people who are going through the docs extensively. The likes of Jules, I know Jules is going through them. So if you want to really see and listen to the docs firsthand, go and listen. I've decided not so much that I'm going to go through all of the docs word for word, line for line. I feel that there's elements of the documents that are important to go over and speak about, and we shall do that. The plan at the moment is to go live. I may have to move it again. I know I keep moving it. I do apologise. We've got a lot going on here at the moment off of YouTube. Life does still continue. So the plan is to go live tonight. If not, then the live will be, it could be moved until the end of the week. But I will be talking about some very specific things that are brought up in the documents. Now, with respect of these documents and what people are willing to report, it's quite interesting when you listen to mainstream media. Mainstream media seem to be avoiding them like the plague. And then you've got the Goncalves family who seemingly are trying to, I don't know, they're trying to make us forget that they had been out and talking about things and showed prior knowledge of things that they're now suggesting that they're only now airing, which is fucking bizarre to me, but we'll get to that in a second. But yeah, like when you look at mainstream media, the best that mainstream media can seemingly come up with is that there are new documents that have been released. Obviously, this gag order. They're talking about a creepy encounter. Goncalves reported seeing an unknown man watching her while she was walking her dog, Murphy, at one point weeks before the murders, according to the newly released filings. She told a roommate, who later relayed the story to detectives. She saw a creepy-looking man on the hill above and behind the house at 1122 King Road. And then it says a couple of weeks later, the roommates found their front door damaged. Now, out of all of the stuff that are in these documents, this story here doesn't seem to have any connection to Brian Koberger whatsoever. We've got this, which I did find interesting, where they're talking about Brian Koberger had looked at Chrome history, done a Google search for broadcastify.com /listen/feed, which was the Pullman Police and Fire Dispatch live audio feed at 12:26:49 a.m. The thing is, what I do find that this could be consistent with, however, is we know that there was an accident going on around his own area, which he's looking at the Pullman Police and Fire Dispatch live feed. So again, this seems to have no relevance to the Moscow, Idaho. This would be consistent with trying to find out what the fuck is going on outside his house. Again, so I don't see why you would bring this up in a context of, oh, this is really fucking weird. He's spying on the police. No, he's not spying on the police. He's literally trying to find out what's going on outside his home. And we know that there's shit going on outside his home. And it's relevant to his area. It's nothing to do with Moscow. So if anything, this shows that up to 12:26, for instance, he's up, he's about, and he's interested in what's going on around his home. Quite normal, and something that perhaps many of us would have done. But there we go. But it's then saying about, obviously, his phone being turned off and switched, place his phone in airplane mode for 2 hours, which we know about this phone situation. So again, they're not reporting any of the inconsistencies in the document. They're not raising anything to do with the DoorDash statements, not mentioning anything about the multiple blood being found at other locations. Strange. It's talking about the brutality of the crime here. And it says here, responding officers found Canodal first and saw it was obvious that an intense struggle had occurred. She is believed to be the only victim who was awake at the start of the massacre, and the documents reveal she suffered 50 stabbing injuries. Most of them were defensive. Where if they'd have read into the document and seen that there was a door dash that seemingly would state that someone was seen up the window looking out and ducking down, that would raise questions over that. So again, my point being, mainstream media who have been all over this like flies on shit for 2.5 years, you now get a huge, intense document drop that does raise some real concerns. It's good to see some people questioning and calling things out, because they are. Some people who are a lot more, how can I say, they know a lot more about the law. They're a lot smarter than what I am. And they're people who have a lot more clout than what I do. They are, at this point, raising questions. Don't get me wrong, some of them are still balls deep in Brian Koberger being guilty, but at least they're acknowledging that not all of this is sounding as straight as it perhaps should have done. And it says here, after his arrest, other inmates reported aggressive and bizarre encounters with Koberger. Now, this isn't so much what this was about. The context behind this was that he showered a lot. He showered a lot, and he spent a lot of time on the phone to his mum. Now, someone made, or seemingly made, a derogative comment about his mum, and he flipped his shit and he didn't like that very much. But we know Brian Koberger has got a real close relationship with his mum. He's obviously going to, if something's said about her, he's going to defend her. So again, quite normal, but interesting that all of the information that comes out, the best thing that these mainstream media outlets can talk about are things that we either already know. They seem to have absolutely no connection to the murders themselves. They're still trying to promote a Brian Koberger kind of weirdo, aggressive, and I've got a video coming later that will talk about this car accident situation as well. So if you're not subscribed, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell and all that jazz. But yeah, and then you've got the Goncalves family, which if we come back down to here and go across here. So the Goncalves family releases a statement, and it is, we are slowly trying to process what we've been reading. Please understand, we are all reading them at the same time as everyone else. Get rid of that. Do you think this was a fair way to find out the absolute brutality Kaylee has endured? This was part of what we'd been fighting for years. Tell us what happened to Kaylee. We deserve to know before the rest of the world. Now, look, first and foremost, I'll say, again, my heart goes out to the Goncalves family. They've gone through a traumatic, horrendous situation. But I can't help but feel that they had already been discussing about the injuries. They had been on public forums and spoken about the fact that they had spoken to Kathy Mabbutt, and Kathy Mabbutt had given them the information surrounding Kaylee and the injuries that she had sustained. Gone quite in depth with it about how she had been beaten and that these injuries would have potentially meant that she hadn't survived the other injuries anyway. This was straight out of the horse's mouth. So I don't understand the thought process behind going public and making out that this is the first time that you are hearing things, when we know that this isn't the first time that you're hearing things. And in fact, you could argue that it's potentially the first time that all of the other families are hearing about the injuries sustained, if they're indeed reading them and are interested in these docs, which I would kind of consider that perhaps the Chapin family are not. I think the Chapin family have completely washed their hands of the whole lot, and they're moving on alongside the University of Idaho in unity. But yeah, I just found it quite bizarre. I just found it quite interesting. And look, I can't criticise the Goncalves family for doing what they're doing, because I'm still talking about the Idaho 4 case. There isn't still an interest in it. There is still a lot of these documents that are raising more questions than providing answers. And until this is done, I will continue to talk about it, albeit I will be starting to talk about other cases over the upcoming days, weeks. We've got Jay Slater's inquest that has come to a conclusion, and we've got these other cases around the United States that are in the background, Brian Walsh and co, and some others. But yeah, with respect to this, I just found it really bizarre. Just found it really bizarre for a family who, yeah, they've been through a lot, and I fully appreciate that. But for them to come forward and say, well, this is the first time that we're hearing any of this. This is absolutely terrible. Do you think it's right and fair that this is how we should find out? And I'm thinking, well, I must be living in the fucking Twilight Zone then, because I'm pretty damn sure that I had heard you discuss the injuries that had been sustained some time ago in quite graphic detail. So tell me down below, have I completely, has the cheese well and truly slid off my cracker? Have I gone bonkers, or am I living in the Twilight Zone? Again, subscribe if you're not subscribed, hit the notification bell, and come and see me later when we talk about injuries sustained during these brutal murders and what that could potentially indicate. Love you all. Oh.